And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. As you see, we have moved outside. It is grilling season, so we just kind of temporarily set us up a little kitchen out here, and I've got Denise and Sue with me, and we are going to just grill up a feast today. We're going to have mesquite marinated pork chops, little boneless pork chops that we're going to put on the grill. We've got some corn on the cob that we're going to put on the grill, and we've got some zucchini, and we're going to slice that zucchini and season it with some lemon pepper, and all of this can be cooked on the grill. I love summertime because you get to go outside and you can cook outside. And you know, one of my favorite things about grilling and cooking outside is the cleanup. It's so much easier. You don't have all the pots and the pans and all of that stuff. So all we've done so far is I have taken just some corn on the cob, and I've been soaking it so that it would be ready. I pulled back the husk and I took the little silks off. As you can see, I've already just cleaned the corn, but I left the husk on there because we're going to actually grill the corn in the husk. Now my grill is on and it is hot. It's important when you're cooking corn on the cob, on your grill, that you soak the ears of corn. These have been soaking for about a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes or so. It's important that you do that so that the outer husk gets completely wet and so it doesn't burn as fast. So we want to just put these on the grill. So let's open up the grill. It is on. It's on medium-high heat for this one because this is a pretty hot grill, as you can see. We're just going to place the corn just straight on the coals. Then we're going to cover it. We're going to put the lid down. We're going to kind of create like a little oven is what we're doing here. Kind of pour out as much of the water as you can and then just put them on there. This is truly a summertime feast. I love corn on the cob grilled outside on the grill. It gets smoky. It has a different flavor altogether than, say, if you were to just boil the corn on the stove. It has a completely different taste. Let's tear that one off there. That's kind of long. It's just going to burn. And we'll put our corn right here on half of our grill because I need to save some room for the pork chops. In the summertime, you can cook an entire meal outside. You don't have to worry about having part of it inside and part of it out. If you've got a grill, and like this grill has a little side burner, and I've got some butter melting. That's all that is in that pot right there. It's just some butter that I have melted so that we will have that to put on our corn. And I'm just going to put this last one on there. It needs to cook for about, I'd say 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so, until the outer, the husk of the corn will be, it'll be brown. It'll look like it's starting to charcoal, but the inside, the corn, will have this smoky, roasted flavor. And then we're just going to slather it with butter and salt and pepper, and it will be delicious. Now, let me just set this down here. Now, we're going to move on to our pork chops. Now, I'm going to show you what I did. This is kind of one of those things that you can get in any store out there. In the section where you can get the little packaged mixes like this, you can get the little gravy mixes or the little chili and spaghetti spice mixtures, a lot of different kinds of mixtures over there. I can't use the brand name, but there's a brand of the little packets over there that have the different grilling flavors in them. There's the Southwest flavor, which is delicious on a flank steak. Or there is, this particular one is the mesquite flavored marinade. You can get an Asian, you can get a lemon and herb. There's just different kinds. I love these little mixtures. All that's in here are different spices, different herbs and spices, dried herbs and spices in there, and we're going to mix. Now, I mix mine a little different than what the package calls for. Whenever you're marinating a meat that you're going to be grilling or cooking in any manner, I always just use a disposable plastic bag. You could use a glass bowl if you wanted to, but I find that just doing it in a Ziploc baggie type thing, you can turn it to coat the meat more often, and when you're done, you just throw it away. You do not have an extra bowl to clean. So I'm going to use just one package of the Mesquite flavored marinade. Now it calls for water on the package, but I don't do that. I like to use a little bit of red wine vinegar, which I always have on hand, about 1/3 cup or so. You don't have to measure, just kind of pour in about what you think is about 1/3 cup. And then I use about 1/3 cup of olive oil. The reason that I use the vinegar, let me watch that go in there. The reason that I use the vinegar is that it's an acid. And what that will do is that will take the meat and it will kind of open up the pores, for lack of a better word, of the meat and allow the marinade to get inside the meat quicker. Whereas if you just used water, you would need to marinate your food a little bit longer. Plus, the vinegar helps to tenderize the meat. Maybe you've got a tougher cut of meat. You know, sometimes you can get a less expensive cut of meat, but if you marinate it, it can be, you can get, you know, like I'm just using the little thin, oh, they're not too thin, they're about 1/2 inch thick of the boneless pork chops, which can be tough. But when you marinate them in an acidic-based marinade, it helps to tenderize the meat. So that is why I use the vinegar instead of the water. Just use your fingers and just kind of dissolve that powder in your oil and your vinegar. I smell my corn cooking. It just smells so good. And I've already got one ready here because I wanted the pork chops to marinate. And at this point, you would just add in, I'm doing pork chops today. You could do, if you like, you know, maybe you had some little tiny steaks, sirloin steaks or something, you could use that. You could use turkey, you could use chicken, you could use whatever you wanted in this marinade. But I'm going to use the pork chops. Now, what I bought were just some boneless pork chops. Now, I had a lady email me about pork chops because she wanted to know how she could, you know, make pork chops at home that tasted good, that weren't tough, that were, you know, not so dry. The key, there's a couple of different keys. Marinating, for one thing, helps to keep them moist, to help, you know, to tenderize them. And don't get a cut of pork chop that is so lean, and I'll show you when I get these out. You want to have a little bit of marbling in between the leaner parts of your pork chop, because that is the fat, and that will dissolve as you're cooking, and it will disperse among the meat. And number one, it adds more flavor, but it also adds a tenderness and moistness to the pork chop, whereas if you just have all lean, you will end up with a very dry piece of pork. Pork has been bred nowadays to where it's much leaner than it was, say, you know, 20 or 30 years ago, when it was a lot fattier. The way that the breeding techniques are nowadays, you're dealing with a much leaner product, so you need to add a little bit of fat to it. So that's what we've done. We've just let these marinate for about 30 minutes. I've got to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to get these chops on the grill and we're going to check on our corn. We'll be right back with you in just a minute. And welcome back. Now, before we put our pork chops on, let's check our corn. I've turned a couple of them, and I want to show you what happens if you just take your tongs and just kind of turn them every few minutes or so. You see how the outer husks are blackening? That's okay. Don't worry about that. That's what's going to happen here. I'm going to turn my grill heat down to low on this side. Let's try to get all of our corn over here. Smells so good. Y'all ever grill corn? My girls over here. They've eaten it, they said. So we've got that there. Now, let's get our pork chops on. And like I said, the pork chops are just boneless pork chops. The pork loin, you could get the whole pork loin and slice it. I don't like my pork chops to be too thin. I like them to be a little bit, not really, really thick, but at least a ½ inch thick. And let me show you one. Now these have been marinating now for about 30, 40 minutes or so. So we're ready to put them on the grill. Let's just get our pork chops on. I love to grill outside. I just love to cook outside all summer long. I grill all winter long, actually. I grill a lot in the winter. Bundle up and go outside and put a sweatshirt on and go throw it on the grill and come back in. But we do a lot of grilling at my house because it's easy, it's good, and, you know, cleanup is minimal, which is a big plus when you're the one who has to do the cleaning. Now, if you'll notice, I'm putting them on an angle. The reason that I do that is because in just a minute we're going to turn them again a quarter of a turn, and that creates those pretty little cross hatch marks that you see in the restaurants. Let me move my little guy here now. Let's just throw away. This is not usable anymore because it's had raw meat, and unless you were to boil that for a couple of minutes, so see, that's why I marinate in a bag. You can just toss it in the garbage and it's done. Now, we've got our pork chops just cooking away, and I'm going to show you what to do. Once they've been on there, this grill is really hot, and when you get them on there, leave them on for just about a minute or so, and then take your tongs, pick one up, and rotate it. You see how that, you got a good shot there? You see how that just puts those little marks on your food? When you rotate it and move them the other direction, then you get the pretty little crosshatch marks that you get in the restaurant. That's why I do that. I'm sticking just a little bit, but that's okay. And then you get that pretty little cross pattern on your food. Just makes it look better. These are very lean pork chops, so they're going to cook pretty quickly. Rule number 2 when you're dealing with boneless pork chops is don't overcook them. You don't want them raw, of course, but you don't want to overcook them to where they're really dry. They're not good if they're really dry. Nobody wants to eat that. So I'm going to actually take a little bit of olive oil and just kind of drizzle. Be careful doing this because it will flare up. Drizzle the olive oil over my pork chops. I'm going to turn them down just a little bit. The wind is picking up out here, as you can tell. Turn it up just a little. Smells so good. Now, for my next dish, we are going to make some zucchini, which is another one of my favorite summertime things. This time of year, it's coming into season. You can get it anywhere. If you're fortunate enough to have a garden or have a neighbor that has a garden, you are blessed because you will get all kinds of the good squash and really and truly any kind of vegetable that is of a firmer texture you can put on the grill. And that's why we're doing the corn. I do zucchini on the grill. I do potatoes on the grill, onions on the grill. I have a grill basket that will just cut up like red peppers and zucchini and yellow squash and little pearl onions that when my mother has her garden, I'll pick the onions when they're really still very small, or little scallions, and just grill those, marinate them in like an Italian dressing, and then just throw them on the grill. They're delicious. But right now we're just going to do some zucchini. Let's check on our food here. Let me grab my zucchini. If I can remember, there we go. Where I put it. I'm outside. I'm not used to working out here, and everything is not normally where I put it. So I've just washed 3 zucchinis, and I'm just going to slice them. Now, if you're going to do them on the grill, you don't want them to fall through the grates. So what you will want to do is just cut them lengthwise, just like this. Be careful with your fingers, and that way, that is thicker, and it will cook on your grill, and it won't fall through. If you have a little grill basket, by all means, you could use a grill basket for this too. Zucchini is delicious cooked on a grill. I'm going to season mine today just very simply with some lemon pepper seasoning, one of those very, very versatile. I'm cutting them about, I'd say that's a quarter to and a half an inch thick, about more toward about a 1/4 inch thick, which is about how thick you want it for the grill. Let's look at our food here. We'll just slice these. I'm doing 3 zucchini. That's a little bit thick, so let's cut down a little more. But you could put any kind of vegetable that you like on the grill. Try it. You know, something else you could do if you didn't want to put them directly on the coals is you could make the little, what the Scouts will call little hobo packets. Have you ever made those where you put in foil and then just put it on the grill or oven, or even open on an open fire would be delicious. If you had a campfire, you could do this, put it in foil. Try not to cut my fingers here. Need my little mandolin slicer. There we go. One more. We're just going to put these on the grill. I'm going to season them up on my cutting board. Got to get something off my grill. We're going to turn our pork chops in just a second. Pork chops that size only take about 3 or 4 minutes on each side, and they will be completely done. You don't have to overcook them. The days of cooking it until it's just bone dry are over. The trichinosis that used to be the problem with pork, they pretty much have bred that out of the meat nowadays. So it's really not necessary to cook it until it's completely white on the inside. So let's get our zucchini slices out here. What I'm going to do is just salt and pepper them, drizzle them with just a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm going to season them with some lemon pepper, which is one of those spice mixtures that you can get, you know, over there with the spices. It's already mixed up and it's delicious, and it's so good on so many different things. Fish, vegetables, anything like that. Shrimp, it's delicious on there. So let's just put a little bit of salt over each one, just a little bit. A little bit of pepper. And our lemon pepper seasoning mix, it's just a little spice mixture that you get. We're going to just put a little bit on each one. And then when we put this down on the grill, we'll do the other side. I got to take another quick break. When I come back, we'll flip the pork chops, we'll get the zucchini on, and the best part, we get to eat. I'll be right back with you in just a minute. Now we're going to flip our pork chops over, and you see why we put the little, see how pretty, and you see that, the little cross hatch marks that come up on your meat when you do that one little twist. So it's very pretty. Let's just flip these over. Side one is done. And we'll do the same thing on this side. We'll leave them about a minute, and then we will twist them just a little bit to create that crosshatch mark, and then they'll be done. They won't take but just about 3 minutes or so on this side. Now our pork chops are done, and I'm going to see if these ladies back here, I keep forgetting that's the wrong one, want to taste it for me. Let me see what they think. Now, the key, like I said, the key is not to overcook, and that way you can see, and if she can get a shot of this, if I can figure out, there we go. It's still moist, it's still good, and it's delicious. So let's take a bite back here. If I can grab this plate, see what they think. There you go. There you go. Now I'm going to steal a refill, if she would be so kind as to get me some more lemonade. We're just having a good time out here today. Now I'm going to take the rest of the pork chops off the grill, and I'm going to get the zucchini on the grill. So let's get, thank you, get the pork chops off. They don't take long because they're not that thick. And you don't want to overcook them because you don't want them to be dry and terrible. And I'm just going to set this. What do you think?
That's
good. Good? Bring them on. All right, now let's get we've just got some extra virgin olive oil that I'm going to just put on the zucchini slices, because you don't want to do this over the fire, because you know what will happen if you do. These will just take a couple of minutes. They will not take that long to cook. Let's take our tongs, and we're going to get our zucchini right on the grill along beside our corn. That corn, oh, how I wished you had smell-o-vision. That corn just smells so good. That truly is one of those summertime treat meals, just grilled corn on the cob, and it doesn't take long. Just, you know, like I said, just peel the husk back and, oops, wrong way. Let's do it sideways so it don't fall down in there. And we'll get these on there. They just take a couple of minutes on each side, and that's it. And they're delicious. And I'm about out of room, so we'll just do that and we'll call it a day here. Grill the rest of them later. And our corn, I believe our corn is done. If you'll sneak in here with me, let me show you kind of what happens. You see how it just sort of steams back in there? That's what we want. So let's give them one more flip. Turn it up just a little bit since I've got the... Flip it. Just what you want to do with corn is just kind of every 3 or 4 minutes, you want to give it a flip so that it gets cooked equally, you know, on all sides. Like I said, I'm going to shut that down, just kind of create a little oven for just a minute. And I've got on here, I just have some butter that I've put on the little side thing here, and I've just melted some butter for our corn. So we've got our feast. What do you think, girls? Very good? Moist? Tender?
Very good.
Not dry? Good. So for my lady that emailed me about the pork chops, here's the perfect recipe for you to try. It won't be dry, it'll be tender, it'll be moist. There's a couple of keys, like I said. Use a marinade or brine them. We'll get into brining later when we go back in. And don't overcook your pork chops. When you overcook them, they are dry, they are tough as leather. But when you just cook them for 3 or 4 minutes on each side, then, you know, unless you've got a pork chop this thick, I like mine to be about a 1/2 inch thick. They stay moist, they stay tender, they stay juicy, they stay delicious. So let's check our zucchini here. Sue back here made us some lemonade, and it's delicious. So let's check our zucchini. Remember, we oiled it, so you know we've got a little bit of a flare-up going, but that's okay. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit more of the lemon pepper on this side. Then we're going to flip them over. If she'll get me a shot here, you can see it just puts those little marks on the zucchini. I don't like my zucchini cooked to where it's mushy. I still like there to be a little bit of texture to it. And this is the perfect recipe. Now I'm going to oil this other side, but you need to be very, very careful doing that so that you don't burn yourself. This is one of those little silicone basting brushes. Be very careful. Please be careful if you do this over an open flame, because it will get you if you're not careful. And my corn back here, I need to get that moved. See the oil dripped? You see what happened? It's okay, just move it off. Not a big deal. Because you're not going to eat that part anyway. We're going to close this down for just a minute, and then we're going to eat. Now we're going to take our zucchini slice off. I'm going to let the girls taste one of the zucchinis. They like the pork chop, so let's see what they think about the zucchini slices. This one was yours. This one is yours. And I want to show you how we do the corn. Because our corn is done, just take one of your ears of corn. Be careful, it will be hot, and just peel back. Now, I was recently at one of our theme parks locally here, and they had this particular dish right here on their menu, and I wanted it so bad, but it was $3 for one little ear of corn, and I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. So I thought, you know, I can cook this myself at home for 20 cents, and I have the same delicious flavor. So, you know, that's a good point in that it's a lot more economical to do this at home. Peel back your corn, take your delicious melted butter, and pour over your corn. Salt and pepper it, and there you go. You have delicious grilled corn on the cob, mesquite grilled pork chops, and grilled zucchini. I hope that you'll get out of the kitchen, get outside, and grill, and we'll see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.